Welcome to the channel, and today we will be talking about a comparison. Not a this is better or this is worse type of thing, but just a comparison. Because at this level, I don't think that there's a worse or better. It's more of a preference for what you like versus another preference for what you like. And so that being said, comparison of the ZMF Caldera, which was kindly sent out by ZMF, so thank you for sending this out, and also a comparison of my other favorite planar magnetic, the Rosson Rad-0, which thank you, Rosson, for sending this out and letting me borrow it. Actually, I picked this up from him personally at Can Jam last year, so fantastic. Thank you for that. And yeah, and what makes these headphones, you know, kind of tick, not really tick, but really what I like about both of them and how they compare to each other. Personally, just off my memory before we dive into the sound and what have you, I'm not really going to go into the build or anything like that, just because I've done videos on those and what have you, but just purely on the sound comparison of the two headphones, we'll dive into those kind of things. And so it'll be hopefully a relatively quick video regarding that. All right, so let's dive into the sound. So, doing a comparison of the Rosson and the Caldera. Starting with the Rosson, I'd say that the highs are crisp, but not overly flashy or overly in your face or controlled, but they are a bit splashier than the Caldera. The mids are a little more intimate, a little more immediate, I wouldn't say they're necessarily more rich, but they definitely lean a little bit warmer. And in fact, the whole Rosson Rad-0 that I have here is a little bit warmer than the Caldera. And I'd say honestly the biggest takeaways that I have are that the Caldera has a bigger stage, a little bit more crisp imaging. Like I said, imaging and stage are a little bit, well, imaging is more crisp, a little bit more precise, and then the stage is wider, and then it's a little bit cleaner. Like across the board, everything just had a little more detail there, a little bit more crispness and cleanliness, and a little more precision in the low end and the mids. Across the board, more precision. It was just a very clean sounding headphone, while still maintaining a bit of that ZMF warmth and flavor going. So it's a very excellent headphone. Whereas with the Rad-0, to me is a little bit more intimate, a little more immediate, a little more personal, a little bit more kind of that engaging, more of a lean forward listening session with the Rad-0s. It's weird though, because the Rad-0s, as well as being a little more lean forward because of that immediacy or that intimacy, as well as being lean forward, it's like a relaxing lean forward. It's this engaging and mellow. I think it's because the imaging isn't so crisp and the stage isn't so wide, is I'm not seeking it out, so I'm not kind of concentrating too hard on it. I'm just kind of letting it be there and listen. And whereas the Caldera is a similar thing, but it's more immediate, like in the sense of the precision. Immediate is not the right word. So the Caldera is more precise and clean, which therefore in turn creates for me a listening session that's lean forward, I guess would be a good way to put it. Like this effortless lean forward where I don't have to seek out the imaging, the details, because it's presented very much so right there. But the way that Zach has tuned these has made it so that even though it's like right there and it's like very crisp and very clean, it still has this really lovely warmth to it and this naturalness to it that allows for me not to be kind of like overwhelmed with the detail. I'm not overwhelmed with the stage or the imaging. Where a lot of times with something like, say, a Susvara or any of the the Hi-Fi Men line, or even some of the Odysseys, sometimes the planars will give me this kind of wall of noise, or I'll get kind of overwhelmed with the detail or the sharpness of the imaging. Whereas with the Caldera, it's a very lovely even keel and warmth there, and there's a soul, I guess, like I said in the previous video. Going back to the Rad-0s in comparison to the Caldera, they are actually a very nice complement in the sense that they present very similarly while also maintaining some very unique characteristics of themselves. So I would say off the bat that the Caldera, as far as the biggest differences, would be the Caldera has a much more precise detail and imaging. It's just next level. And then the Rad-0, the imaging is there and the detail is there, but it's more intimate, and it's not as prevalent as the Caldera, and then the stage is definitely more intimate. I'd also say that the Rad-0 is a little bit warmer, and then the low end is a little bit more forward, whereas the Caldera's low end is punchy and precise and clean sounding, and it's really nice. Rad-0 has a little bit more of a punchy warmth there, like it's more of that thumpy, like, you know, I would probably want to listen to more EDM, a little more hip hop. Oops, need to go pick up the daughter. Anyways, so the low end is a little bit more warm, a little bit more forward, with the Rad-0 is a little bit more thumpy and kind of engaging. And not that the Caldera's isn't. The Caldera's is a very similar thing, but it's just more detail. It's more precise. It's more of a like thumpy, clean, like you can hear all the detail. I think that's the biggest thing, is the details are just really present in the Caldera, and that's where it shines. It's pretty amazing what it does, and then still be able to have that warmth and not be a wall of noise for me or be overwhelming with the, you know, image separation, the sharpness. There's no sharpness to it. It's really, really lovely. So that's kind of my biggest takeaway from the Rad-0 and the Caldera. And I listened to multiple tracks with this via Qobuz. One of the main ones I listened to over and over again was Go Go Penguin, Signal and the Noise, just to kind of as a baseline, because I've heard that track a million times. So yeah, that's kind of the takeaway I have with the Caldera and the Rad-0. So on to final thoughts. All right, so final thoughts on the Rad-0 comparison to the Caldera, and or Caldera comparison to the Rad-0. The Rad-0 for me is just, I think there's a place for both, honestly. Like, they're still these are some of my favorite, these are actually just my two favorite headphones as far as planars go. And the Caldera is the new addition to that. Before that, the king was the Rad-0 for me. And the Caldera now comes in, and I think for me, these two are kind of the two sides of a coin, right? So where the Rad-0 is this warm, engaging, kind of more intimate listening session, the Caldera would be more of that really nice, God, what would be a way to put this? It's like sitting on your couch listening to speakers is the Caldera, whereas the Rad-0s is more of that, you know, wrapped in a warm blanket, chilling in your favorite seat, listening into your music and kind of getting lost to it while sipping on like a hot toddy or a hot chocolate or what have you. And then the Caldera is this kind of just opens up, and you kind of like, it's more of that kind of, instead of it lost in your head or getting lost in like this space and just being like really just in it, the Caldera gives you more of this like space and imaging, and it allows you to kind of get lost in that, like in a space, I guess, really, but still maintain like this really lovely warmth and the soul that it has, whereas most other headphones in that range, or in planars, most planars for me, I don't get along with them. But the Rad-0s and the Caldera, for whatever reason, they just float my boat, I guess. They keep me engaged with them, and a lot of times with, like, say, the Susvaras or some of the other hi-fi mins, or even some of the Odysseys. Though I will say that probably the LCD2 Classics were some of my favorites that I got along with, but that's neither here nor there. But between these two, going back to the getting lost, my ADHD's kicked off, but sorry, the Caldera compared to some of the other hi-fi mins, and in general, even the Rads, and is you get this super sharp image separation, and you get this wall of noise sometimes, and you get this built-up pressure from the planars, and it creates for me like just over time it just builds up, and I lose interest in listening to them, and I can't engage with them for more than a couple hours. Whereas with the Rads and the Calderas, I can get lost for a long time and just really listen and really enjoy it. They have a soul. They have this. Both of them are just lovely headphones, and I really appreciate what Rosson and Zach are doing with their headphones. They're just, and on top of that, they're two of the most beautiful headphone makers. They just make beautiful headphones, and also they're two of the most wonderful people I know in the hobby. So, or in the space, in what they do and what they build. They're both fantastic people, and I really can get behind what they're doing. So, yeah, with that, I think that there is a place for both the Rad-0 and the Caldera in my life, and I think that they complement each other very well, actually, in the sense that I would say that the Caldera is more of this wide open space, whereas the Rad-0 is more of this intimate, engaging warmth kind of thing that kind of wraps you up in a warm blanket and doesn't want to let go. And the Caldera is kind of like the same thing, but just imagine wider and bigger and deeper, and it's more about the imaging and the stage while still maintaining that soul and some nice warmth and engagement. So really digging on it. So with that, I'll let everybody have the rest of the day back, and we'll catch you on the next one. Cheers.